Here's an oldie but goodie. Hit it!
Well, there's 3 seconds left, and we have the ball all the way down at the other end, and he puts me in. No, I'm only there to shoot the ball, okay? I'm only there to shoot it. Wake Forest coach Carl Tacey knows that I'm only in there to shoot it if they can get it to me. So God knows Brad Davis takes the ball out. They don't put a guy on him, so he's got a clear shot. And I'm standing about the hash mark, and no one guards me. He throws me just a straight line pass. I catch it, one dribble, uncontested, 25 feet, tie the game. So it was as much about making the shot as it was about kind of a defense.
Hit 10 shots in a row from 22 feet out. Brian Magid could virtually do it in his sleep. Averaged 25 points a game. Brian did it nearly his entire high school career. Win games in the last minute when the pressure is hip deep. Brian Magid did that. So good a shooter was he that when being recruited by those vultures known as college basketball coaches, a scouting magazine accorded Magid one of the game's loftier accolades. It said, he shoots a postage stamp jumper. That means that all Magid metaphorically has to do is lick a stamp, stick it to a basketball, and mail in the package from far outside. To be sure, this exaggerates Brian Magid's shooting skill, but not by much. The Washington Post. Brian Magid is the all-time leading basketball scorer in the history of Montgomery Blair High School. In 1974-75, he was first-team All-Metropolitan, first-team All-State, and a top 100 high school All-American, in addition to being a two-time first-team All-County selection. Magid played 2 years at the University of Maryland before transferring to George Washington University. He was captain and leading scorer at GW his senior year and led the nation in free throw shooting at .929. A two-time first-team Jewish All-American, Magid was a member of the gold medal-winning U.S. basketball team at the Mecca Games in 1977 and led the team in scoring. Magid was drafted by the Indiana Pacers after the 1979-80 season.
I have Cedric Boatman, and I have Brian Magid here. So first I want to thank you guys for coming through.
Our pleasure.
Taking the time out.
No problem.
To spend some time with us. And let's go right into this. So we're here at Sligo Park. What is the significance of Sligo Park to Montgomery County basketball in the 1970s? This is where the really good runs were from kids in high school all the way up through college and out of college. So if you wanted to get the really good competition around here, this is where you came.
Yeah, I'd go a little step further than that. You came here, and what was hard about when you came here, the competition was so stiff that guys started bringing their own players here, meaning they're not so much their friends, but other players they played with. Because see, once you lost, you weren't getting back on the court. It would be a long time before you got back on the court. And the next people who were coming in to play, they might already had their own team. So if you lost, you might need to go home because it may be 2 or 3 hours before you stepped on the court. Coming from each school, they were like bragging rights, you know. So a lot of times then, even when whether you were with the group of guys you played with or not, but when you came down to Sligo, Hillendale, Como Park, junior high, you know, you wanted to show, man, because you took pride. You wanted to show, man, that your school, because you were part of it, hey, man, I could ball. And everybody had their own little specialty. You know, some could play defense real good, some could shoot real good, some could do both, some could rebound real good, some could just flat out hustle. You know, everybody had their own little particular niche that made them good, that when you came to the court, you remembered them by that little niche in the game, whatever it was. And so that's what made you better. That's what made you. But I still got to tell you one story. Stacey get a kick out of this.
Go ahead, Brian. 14 years old. I think I'm 8th grade going into 9th grade, maybe 9th going into 10th. And you know, the best thing about coming down here and frequenting this place is you got to know guys. And I was grateful that they let me even play. You know, they're 3, 4, 5 years older. You know, I learned to hold my own, but you know, I'm just in awe of these guys. You know, I mean, these are the people who I looked up to, who I wanted to be like and emulate. So Sligo had a pretty good rep, because I still remember one night, we talked about Eddie Peterson earlier. He's sitting right here, and car pulls up over there, and Donald Washington gets out of the car. Big Donald Washington from St. Anthony's, must have been like 1970 or 71, gets out, and it's like, holy smokes, Donald Washington's coming to Sligo, you know? That was like a big deal. That was...
Just for the viewers, describe what type of player Eric Peterson was, or he came before you, or your relationship with Eric Peterson.
Well, you know, I think each of us can point to one moment in our lives, or maybe even 2 or 3, that changed the direction of where your life went. When I met Eddie Peterson, my life went in a different direction than it would have had I not met him. Okay, Eddie is still to this day the best shooter and the best teacher of shooting that I know, okay, that I've ever seen. I kid him around. I tell him if a jump shot were a woman, his jump shot would have been Grace Kelly. Just flawless. And when I met him and he showed me a few things, it pretty much took my life in a different direction. I'm quite certain I wouldn't be sitting here with Cedric and you guys today had I not met Eddie. He was that good.
Oh, he was great. I remember I first saw Eddie, I was in the 7th grade, 1970, yeah, 1970 and 1969. It was 1969. And I used to go to the Blair games, and man, Blair and Springbrook rivals, Junior Jackson, Huckleberg, all them guys, man. Ballers, man. And Eddie Peterson came into the field house down at Blair. He lit that place up so bad they didn't know what to do with him. And it was a tight game. It was a pretty tight game, but he made the difference in it. I'm talking about pure shooting. Like, look, I played with a pure shooter, but that boy can shoot. I mean, once he got them feet set and that follow through working, you weren't messing with him. And what was good about him, he was a student of the game. So it's not about how quick Eddie was, anything like that. For whatever his deficiencies were, he knew how to hide them. That's just like Brian, same way. So he knew how to get the spots to be able to get his shot off. You know, if you weren't off the ball dribbler, he was gonna get through a pick, circle around, square up, knock him down. And so that's just the way he was. That's the way he was. Great player. Love Ed.
Yeah, he had a system that he developed. Maybe one day you'll talk to him. He'll go through the whole chronology of how he developed it. But you know, he ended up teaching Buzzy, who was really a pioneer in the NBA. He was the first ever shooting coach, shooting instructor that was hired as an assistant to sit on the bench. You know, and he transformed a couple of guys' careers. You know, Chris Webber, and they benefited from Buzzy. But Buzzy said the other day, he goes, I learned 75% of what I needed to know from Eddie. And the other 25% you figure out on your own. But he made one point that's really primary, is just because you're a great shooter doesn't mean you're a great teacher of it.
That's right.
You know? But talk about it, fortunately for me, Eddie was a great teacher. Fortunately for those guys that Buzzy works with, he's a great teacher too. Yeah. You know, probably have to consider him the best. The system is, you know, people try to make shooting like rocket science. It's really not. Is the primary focus of Eddie's theory, we call it the system, is it if you can understand why the ball goes in, there's reasons why the ball goes in, and there's a few things that you can do to make the ball go where you want it to go. And he's very good at teaching. And once I realized that, man, it was like an epiphany.
Give us one of those things.
What's that?
That you can do to make sure the ball goes in.
Well, for instance, for me, there's only two reasons why the ball goes in. It's shot straight enough,
There you go.
and it's shot the right distance.
Exactly.
Okay. And Eddie's theory was that you can control the direction of your shot. You can make it go straight every time.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to eliminate the misses to the right and to the left. Okay. As far as the distance and the control of that, okay, how much are you willing to practice? How much time are you willing to put in? Because there's no one alive who can explain to anyone else how hard to shoot the ball from a particular spot.
Yeah.
That's all about feel and finding your range and practice, and realizing that once you realize that you can make the ball go where you want it to go, then it's just a matter of that distance thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to 1970, the 1974-75 seasons.
Wow.
You guys lose in the semifinals, right?
Still lose
How-
sleep over.
That's my question. What effect did that have on the team after losing that semifinal? What effect did that have during the off season?
I'll let Brian explain because he explains it well. He actually did it in his Hall of Fame speech for Blair. Yeah.
Well, I think it had a pretty significant impact, because the very first day of school the next year, Cedric and I got together. I think it was probably you who had the idea. He decided that we're going to start practice without the coach. This is back in the days when you could do stuff like that. You know, and they didn't say, well, oh, you're having an illegal practice. So we came up with, we're having practice 3 times a week. You know, and the only people who were excused were those guys on the football team, because they couldn't do it. We did it right after school. And I still remember, I mean, you couldn't make it mandatory, but this guy tells you to be there, you're going to be there, right? I think the second one we had, a couple of guys had missed. And so they come the next time, and he makes them run. He makes them run. He goes, where were you? Well, well, nothing. He goes, don't miss it again, and don't be late either, you know? So for September, October, and half of November, we were practicing, just like regular practice. It wasn't just like scrimmaging or anything. You know, we did drills and everything. I mean, we had 11 seniors that year, I think. We had a lot of guys coming back. And, you know, Arthur, you mentioned that game we lost to Perry by 1 point. I mean, to this day, we lost on a game winner that Van Vaughn shot, that to this day is the most that a ball has ever been in that I've ever seen, and didn't stay in and came out.
Yep. We had the last shot, and just didn't work out.
And that was tough, because we were on a roll. We'd won like 10 or 11 in a row. We were up to number 11 in the area, and we had just beaten Springbrook two weeks before.
Actually,
at their
we won
place.
13 in a row, because we were 12-5 at the Christmas break. I mean, we were 3-2 at the Christmas break. And Donald wasn't happy. Nobody was expecting us to have 2 losses. Yeah, it was a little slow rolling.
So we had beaten Springbrook 2 weeks before, and had we won that game, the county championship, the regional final would have been over at their place again. You know, and at that time, Springbrook and Blair, man, that was the big rivalry in the county.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, you're still talking about 74, 75. I mean, we were expected to win.
Yep.
I mean, I think Stacy will attest to this too. I think the mid 70s was the height of media coverage for high school basketball.
Yeah.
We had the Post, we had the Star.
Yep.
In the county, we had the Journal, we had the Sentinel, and we had the Suburban Record. And they had county high school basketball guys. Yeah. I mean, that was their job. And we got a lot of publicity that year.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a lot of publicity, and so, you know.
Yeah,
Damn, bro, it's a good thing we won.
Yeah, you ain't lying. You ain't lying. You ain't lying. But Blair basketball was big, man. You had one of the few schools that had a field house by itself. The only other school had one was Whitman, and basically, you know, we packed that thing.
Yeah,
you know, the schools the visiting schools would bring their fans and almost try to pack the other side. Our side always packed. And we had upper deck bleachers, always packed. Rowdy crowd too. You had the football team, bunch of guys there, they come on and all blasted up, they hollering and shooting out obscenities and all kinds of stuff. Made the environment, but it was good obscenities in the sense that, you know, they weren't vulgar, but you know, they just let you know. Rep call a bad call, they say BS, you know, good call, they holler good credits, you know. And so it's funny too, because when Brian would ever get the ball and he getting ready to get in the act of shooting, you heard people go, ooh, before it didn't go in and go, whoosh, because they knew it was falling, man. And then, you know, it's funny too, because I was telling Brian recently, you know, Brian he's always said this to me. I didn't understand it till now. And he said, man, you don't understand how valuable you were as far as just rebounding. Until I saw this 74 clip that he just showed me a few days ago, I got a chance to look at it. And I remember Stacy used to say, man, you a hell of a rebounder. He and I played in the All-Star game together. I remember Stacy was saying, man, y'all ain't got Boatman on the court, man, I ain't playing, because we gonna get out and run. And we don't have the ball, we can't get out and run.
Well, you know, that's interesting that you say that, because playing with someone and watching it are two different things. You know, I think you can appreciate it in different ways, watching it as opposed to when you're involved.
I agree.
In a game.
My mama born me in a ghetto. There was no mattress for my head.
Because remember, Harold Gaither was my junior high coach, and Harold Gaither was associated with the Washington Bullets at the time. He worked for the organization. And he coached me, I think it was my 9th grade year. Yeah, it was my 9th grade year. But anyway, remember Wes Unseld, rest his soul, came over to Blair one time. Because, you know, our coach Don knew literally everybody. And I just asked him one time after he finished talking one day, I just asked him about just, you know, rebound, what makes it? And, you know, we talked a little bit. And although I had the overhead, Brian tell you, I could stand the flat foot and throw it the length of the court, or hit the wall. That was no problem, but I was never accurate with that. But what I developed was bringing it down into my chest area, and I actually could push it off real quick. And when I watched the video yesterday, I didn't keep that ball in my hand but about 2 seconds every time, if that long, maybe a second, because I always had this gift to know where to go with the ball when I got it. And one time I was looking at it against Whitman, which was the film I just recently looked at, and Brian was out on the break, and he was halfway down the court, and I still overthrew him. I just laughed. Brian was gone, had his hand up, and this is just a one-hand push pass. One-hand push shove pass, as they call it.
I've seen you around for a long, long time. Yeah. I remember.
So Coach Doan recognized the importance of us playing against, like, you know, the top competition.
Yeah.
And in Montgomery County, you're bound by the schedule that you have to play all county teams. Back then, you couldn't play any teams outside, or maybe one game.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember our 3 years, we scrimmaged Coolidge, scrimmaged McKinley, with Cricket, we scrimmaged Mackin. I think when we were in 10th grade, Keith was playing, Keith Herron.
Yeah, he was.
And JoJo must have been playing. When he must have been a junior.
When we
our senior year. So, you know, we got.
JoJo was.
And then our senior year, we scrimmaged Eastern.
Yeah.
And they had Turk and Rodney and Mike Morton and
tough.
And Rat.
Tiff.
Remember, like 500 kids showed up.
Sure did.
Blair
for a scrimmage game. Yep, yeah. 500 kids.
Our class was heavy into our team. I mean, we traveled well too. They went to all the away games. Away games sometimes felt like a home game.
Yeah, because we would pack a gym. We would pack another team's gym, for sure.
Here's my favorite thing. Over the years, this has happened dozens of times. To me, to you, Tony Wilson, everybody. It's amazing how many kids from other schools, okay, who didn't go to Blair, they would tell me, man, we used to go to Blair games. We didn't even go to our games. We went to Blair games.
Yeah, they would.
I mean, that's pretty telling.
Okay, from a tactical standpoint, what made that 1975 team so hard to defend?
That's an easy question. It was a perfect storm for me because we had 5'6" guys, 6'5", 6'6", which is unheard of in Montgomery County basketball. Okay, and not only were they big, but they could all play. We had a guy coming off the bench, Steve Bates, who would have been the best player on half the teams in the county.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there wasn't a game where we didn't outsize the opponent, okay? Outsize and outmuscle. So they had a pick your poison situation. You play man, you're not going to be able to stop us underneath. Or you play zone, and then
we'll shoot you out.
You know.
We'll shoot you out.
So, like I said, it was a perfect storm, and although we did face a lot of man, we faced some gimmick defenses.
Yeah,
but,
we even faced some stalling the ball, the old four corners. You faced that. You know, they want to spread it out. And the problem is, once you did it, you better stay on top of us, because if we went up one, you were in trouble. You know, at a 10-9 quarter, you know, if we going up, then we're off running. We're gone. And teams just couldn't run with us. And it's basically because we had Tony Wilson, who was a real good point guard. He helped manage the game. We had a backup point guard, and he awfully started once in a while. That was Henry Fuller. He was real good. And a defensive, a tear on defense. Oh, he D you up. He one of them guys like you know how a gnat get in your eye? You want to get off me, man. Get off me. He was like that. And then you had Boo down low, who's my opposite, man, Van Buren Vaughn. Man, he got that little turnaround fadeaway, man. It was hard to stop it, man. That little short jump shot, man, he had was deadly, man. And between him, myself, being under, and we just Brian would get us the ball, Tony would get us the ball. You had to pick whether you were going to defend us outside or inside. You had to pick one or the other, but you weren't going to do both. You weren't going to defend both.
I think most teams, other than Springbrook, maybe, and Duval in the state final, played us zone.
Yep.
For the most part.
Yeah.
So it was the ultimate pick your poison situation for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brian, you're the Montgomery Blair all-time leading scorer. How did you approach basketball games as far as scoring? What were you looking at out there? What were you reading? You were just reading your big men, or how did you approach it? Was it whatever the defense gave you?
I mean, you know, usually the reputation that you get when you're like, you know, a shooter is you're a gunner. You know, you have no conscience and you just shoot like, you know, whatever. Cedric will tell you that's really not the case with me.
No.
I mean, I only averaged 18 shots a game that year that we won it. You know. Now maybe if the three-point line had been in, I would have shot a few more times.
Oh, we know you would have.
But
but it's good.
I mean, I averaged 25. We averaged 72.
Yeah.
So where are the other 47 points coming from? It's a lot of points.
Yeah.
You know, and we're only giving up 50.
Right.
Our point differential that year was 22 points.
Yeah,
it's pretty significant. And I mean, we had a well-rounded team, and I wasn't gonna. I mean, you know, I really let the points come to me.
Yeah. We could defend you. That's one thing I liked about our team. We could defend you. As big as we were, most of us could check smaller people. And from a defensive standpoint, I always had somebody smaller than me. You know, I'm 6'6", 230, 225 back then, and I was fairly solid. Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm going to interrupt you right there. The one thing about Cedric that people don't understand is he could guard guards. I mean, this guy, I'm over there practicing my shooting, and he's over there doing defensive slides. I'm not kidding. This is no exaggeration. He could move laterally as quick, or if not quicker, than anyone on our team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
so, and you know, you add that to his size in Montgomery County. It's, I mean, those other guys didn't have it easy when he was under there.
Yeah. So if we had on defense, we in man, we could actually switch. If I could guard the guy Brian was guarding, I say, Brian, switch, man, and we just do it. Doan didn't like to do a lot of switching. He liked us to go over the picks,
we never played zone either.
We never played zone.
The whole
we didn't play no zone. He was criticized for times as a coach for never going into zones. He just didn't believe in it. He figured he would lose a win by that, and I'm glad Brian brought that up. That was my specialty. I mean, I love to play defense. I love to make it hard on people. Yes, as Brian has said, you know, and after you said, yeah, Brian holds the all-time scoring record, and then I was able to break the school record in rebounding. I did it in 2.5 years. I wish I didn't have the knee surgery that I had my sophomore year. After we played the math, I had to go in for surgery, and I had knee surgery. So I was out most of my sophomore year, and I was still able to rip down about 700 plus rebounds in 2.5 years. And I didn't realize it. I didn't realize and understand it till after I got out of high school, after I got out of college. Brian and I were talking one day, and Brian said, "Do you understand what you did?" And I just really did, because I took it for granted. I took it for granted. But when I look at it now, and I did the math on it, it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense in a little over 2.5 years, 60 games, rip down that many rebounds, and be able to defend like. But I always took pride in the defender. I love to defend, and that's when I went to college. That's what I went for, rebounding and defending. That's what I was.
So what was your, if you had to tell a kid today, if you had to give him a method to approaching rebounding, what would you tell him? Is it about want-to? Is it about skill? Or
it's Dennis Rodman. Yeah, Brian, right. Just go watch some of these good rebounds. Watch Dennis Rodman. Watch Unsell. Basically, it's a 1-2. But I think what I learned is that I remember talking. Just one of the conversations I had with Wes Unsell is that he told me this one thing. He said, "Learn the flight of the ball. Where it's shot on the court, the percentage of where it's going to go, its averages always remain. From the side, it's either going to go from either side, one side to the other, or most of the time it's going to come back at you. If it's from the elbows of the court, you know, you can see the flight of the ball, whether it's going to go right or left. So I always try to be in position and know, like, as soon as I saw the flight of the ball, I would just run to it. I developed that more in college than I did in high school, because in college the competition was so much better. So I'd be running for a rebound in college versus high school. You can see me on tape and I'd be playing it under the basket. You won't see me running after a ball, but if it was close to me, you weren't getting it. That was for sure.
Well, so I guess the party line for rebounding is it's mainly desire.
Yep.
But if you have the fundamentals of rebounding down, plus the desire, and you've got the size like this guy, then, I mean, you're going to be a great rebounder. You know, he was technically a good rebounder. You would have had a lot of rebounds if you weren't as big as you were, or as athletically gifted as you were. You know, because you actually studied it. You just didn't go out there and like wait for the ball to go.
No.
You know,
no.
So it was
boxing out.
It was fundamentals,
yep.
like the technique of rebounding.
Yep.
Plus, if you don't have the desire, I mean, you wanted it.
I wanted it. And it was funny too, because my junior year, after Brian was it the junior year, Brian scored a whole lot of points in one game. He averaged, what'd you average, about 16 your first?
17.
17. And one day I came out of the. We going in the locker room after the game. I said, how many points you had, man? Brian said, I had 22. I said, that's all right. I'm going to match that boy in rebounds. I'm going to match it in rebounds. Watch. Every game you score, I'm going to try to match that.
You'd be better off listening to him about rebounding, because I think I averaged 3 rebounds a game.
No, this tape I saw you had 5. Oh, that was funny. Blair was tough because we had all facets. That 74 team, I actually think the 74 team was really overall better in the sense and a natural talent than our 75 team. I've always felt that way. It was a hell of a team. I mean, you had Jerry Fuller, you had Rick Pinkney, you had Doug Dat, who was our point guard, hell of a point guard. And he brought back memories when I was just looking at the footage, man. I mean, some of the stuff he was doing, yeah, he managed that. He managed that game. He knocked down some. He had that little short-range shot game. Oh yeah. He can knock him down too. The
competition in the county in those years was very high too. There was there was some walkover games for us.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, you couldn't just walk in and win a game.
No.
But
you slid past Loyola, Baltimore. Now, was that a tough game?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were #1 ranked team in Baltimore.
That was good. That was a good game. That boy was what, 6'8", 6'9"?
Pete Budko. They had Robbie O'Connor, who made first team All-State that year. And we blew a 10-point lead.
Huh? Where Pete? Yeah, North Carolina.
Robbie O'Connor went to St. Joe's.
So they matched it up in the paper, the battle between Pete, myself, and Brian, and and so it was all set up, and it was a tough game. But then we start getting it. We start off slow, but then we start getting in this groove, and we had a good substantial lead. And then we allowed them to come back, and we
blew a 10-point lead in the last minute.
It was a
Lefty
game.
Was there too.
Yeah, it was a game of runs, man, and it was crazy. Let me tell you something about though. I got to switch about the 75 team because our practices were just competitors of the games. I mean, we used to have coaches, college coaches, Norm Sloan, Dean Smith, Lefty, name some others that would come down if they were in town. They would come to our practices.
And I think Gene Doan was sort of like I don't want to say a pioneer, but he recognized the value of conditioning.
Yes, he did.
Before, I mean, we did a lot of conditioning. Oh man, I mean, running the steps and football and running up the steps around the gym, and he ran us to death. Yeah. I'm not going to say he was a sadist, but he was close to it.
Yeah, he's crazy. But I tell you what, two things Gene was going to have you. He was going to have you this. He was going to have you in shape, and he was going to have you prepared for your next opponent. Your practices were to prepare you, and fundamentally, he had you ready for your next opponent. So you weren't surprised, man. And let's face it, to me, everything's about confidence. When you got confidence in doing something, you can do it a whole lot better than when you can and you don't have confidence in it. And I'm telling you, man, he worked us out, man, and literally tried to kill us. I mean, we always tell the story, our first practice of our senior year.
Let me
go ahead, tell it, man.
So here's how set the team was. We had one kid try out for the team who didn't go through the preseason or who wasn't on the football.
That's funny.
We had 16 guys show up at practice, because we had 15 on the team that year.
Yeah.
The one guy who showed up was a friend of mine that I convinced he should try out for the team. This guy, I'm not going to say his name. Good guy. So
very good guy.
So I remember the beginning of practice, Doan, you say, Brian, what's he doing here? He's trying out, coach. I mean, I told him he should try out. He's a pretty good pickup player. So we ran a 3-man weave, and then Doan said, get on the line for the suicide. So my friend gets on the line after doing a 3-man weave. You know what this is like, Stacy. If you're not used to playing basketball, it's a different kind of shape that you got to be in.
And hold on for Brian, go any further. Our suicides wasn't like everybody else's. Everybody else just ran them. We had to run them under 30 seconds. He put time on the clock.
So he runs foul line and back, half court and back, 3/4 court and back, full court, out the door to gym.
Ran out the door, never came back.
Was supposed to come in, just ran out the door.
Kept on going.
I called him later. I said, dude, what happened?
It's funny as I don't know.
Man, I had no idea it was going to be that hard.
But Doan never believed in cutting anybody. He would through mental stress, he would take you through the stress where you would cut yourself. That's what he did. Most of the time he didn't put up any signs, anything for who made the team. He would run you and he would put you through so much stress. If it wasn't from sprints, it was through drills to where you would literally fall out and then you wouldn't want to come back. That's how he did it.
In the championship year, Springbrook got you one time. They beat you one time.
Yeah, they did.
What happened that game?
It was Brian's fault.
I think I went 7.
It was Brian's fault. He wasn't hot that night.
I think I went
let us down.
7 for 18. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, we lost 2 games that year, and one was that one, and then we went up to Wheaton High School. Oh God!
The Springbrook game was a shock. I think.
Right.
I think we were a little shocked because we had already beaten Loyola before that.
Exactly.
I believe.
We sure did.
So what about Whitman?
No, it was Wheaton.
No, Wheaton. So Wheaton, we went up. It was in January and it was cold. It was a Friday night, like bitter cold. I still remember this.
Yeah, we're all on the bus.
And the fans, I don't think a lot of our fans showed up. This is not an excuse. They beat us. And they played a zone.
And they held the
I don't
ball.
know. I mean, yeah, they held the ball. I think they beat us 51-49.
And I love Coach Don't Rest His Soul, but you know, he had false teeth in the front. So sometimes when his tongue would move too far to the forward, the false teeth would shoot out. So he got upset so bad. I don't want to, this is not going to happen ever again. I'll tell you what, having them headphones on and all that old stupid stuff is no more on this bus. You're going to be on here concentrating on ball. You're going to be like gentlemen. You're going to be focused. And I'm telling you all, you're going to be at practice. Fortunately, when he could get away with this. If we lost the game on a Friday, there was a 6 a.m. practice.
Okay. So you guys get to the semifinals and you play Parkville. And Brian, you walk away from that one with only 12 points.
Right.
Overrated. Overrated. You walk away with only 12 points. So what was, from a tactical standpoint, how did you go into that game, and what did you see that made you say, hey, I'll be more of a facilitator today?
Well, I think I only got 12 shots off that game. And we were having success inside. I think Boo had 18 and 11 that game.
Yeah.
I mean, the game wasn't close at all. So, I mean, the goal was to get to the championship.
That was
You
it.
know, I actually don't remember too much specifically about that game because it was like 71-50. It wasn't even competitive, so.
Okay, well, you returned against Duval, hitting 16-22 for 33 points. You hit your first 10 out of 12 shots?
Yeah.
What was that about?
Cole
You said you were happy to be able to get back to yourself. What was that about?
You know, I always found Cole a very good place to shoot in. You know, some gyms you like better than others. I thought Cole was a shooter's gym. And, you know, some nights you're just feeling it.
Yeah.
And that happened to be a good night to be feeling it. So,
Yeah. I remember that game well, man. And, you know, I told Tony and I told Brian before the game, way before we got out of the locker room, I said, man, we're going to have a good game. But I said, man, I'm going to have a great rebounding game because I'm playing against a good center. This boy can flat out ball.
Garcia
Hopkins.
Steve Hay.
Yeah, Steve Hay. Both of them.
They had a guy named Barnhart too. Who wasn't bad.
They could ball their rear ends off. But I was determined. I said, well, this is what you're gonna come out for. I said, don't worry about points. And I think I had 8-10 that game. I averaged about 12 points a game in high school. It was actually Brian, Boo, then me. It went that in the way we averaged. And then
that first half though, I remember I was getting a lot of open looks.
Yeah, because
we even got out on the break a few times and got some easy ones.
That's what I was determined.
It was still close to half.
Yeah.
And in the second half, it was nip and tuck, and we got down 61-56 with 4 minutes to go.
Right.
But ended up scoring the last 10 points of the game to win.
Because we start controlling the game. We start holding them to one shot. They missed, they wasn't getting it. So between Boo and myself and Vanell and whoever else came off the bench, they weren't getting, we just could hold you to one shot. And that was a big key. And that's what got us off into the lead in the first half. I remember early I was getting some good easy rebounds. Brian or Tony would creep out a little bit. I'd get it out to him. We off and running, okay? But then they make a jump.
Tony too.
Yeah, Tony.
I mean, Billy Napolitano was a hell of a player.
Yes, he was.
And he didn't have his best game in that game.
No,
but Tony.
Tony was prepared.
Tony did a good job.
Great job on it.
I was a pretty good baseball player.
He was good.
But when you reach a certain point, you realize how good you're not compared to how good you were. I mean, I played varsity baseball in 10th grade and I pitched, but I mean, I still remember the last game on a Saturday in June in 1973. I could not wait for the game to end so I could come down here and play hoop.
It's luck.
And I knew, honest to God, I knew then that I wasn't going to play baseball anymore.
But don't
You're playing on you're on the baseball field the whole time. You wish you were playing basketball.
right.
But
So-
I happened to make the team. I wanted to quit, and my father said, "Yeah, no,
Finish
not
it out.
quit.
Finish it
Made
out.
the team. Finish it out. If you don't want to play anymore, then don't play anymore. I mean, you got to have a passion for something if you want to play it.
That's the way.
Yeah.
That's the way my dad was. Actually, our dads used to sit next to each other, along with the assistant principal, short lady with the glasses. What was her name? Anyway,
I'll
it'll
think
come.
of it.
But they all
Curry.
sat. Dr. Curry. Dr. Curry, Brian's father, my father. They all sat together, and I think that was a trait too. Our father makes you finish something out. If you couldn't quit after it was done and over with, you didn't want to go back, it was fine. But don't get this twisted. Don't think that Brian wasn't a good athlete in baseball, because he was. Now, where his love was and what he could do is two different stories here. Because he could play. He could play. And he was pretty good. He always tried to be modest about it. He was a good pitcher. He was a good pitcher. You know, not fast, had a lot of junk, make you chase stuff that you didn't want to chase. So he's smart on the mound, just like he was on the court. But
don't get him talking about baseball.
yeah, you know. But
We played against each other in baseball when we were in 7th grade.
Sure did. I play first base. I actually play first, outfield, and also I had to catch when I was the backup catcher.
We were on the All-Star team together,
For 2 years.
junior midgets.
Midgets and juniors.
Yeah.
Midgets and juniors. Remember the picture somebody sent? Did you see that picture?
I sent it to you.
Yeah, you sent it. Yeah, okay. All right, I just got to remember who sent it. Yeah, but yeah, there's a picture.
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
Friends with him. We used to even go down to Luzon sometimes.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot that court. Yeah. Go down.
So,
Play.
I mean, that to me is a much, I don't want to say better. It's preferable in hindsight to just playing AAU all the time.
Right.
Okay, well, since we're on that, what do you think about today's game? Let's be honest. I mean, give it to him cold. Give it to him cold.
I'll tell you, you might find this interesting, but I miss the mid-range game.
Me
I
too.
wish they'd move that line so far back where it's gonna reduce the number of guys who can actually take it by like 85 or 90%.
Yeah.
Because I mean, all threes and layups now, I don't find it as entertaining
As the mid-range
as watching guys like Jordan and my favorite Paul Pierce and guys like that, you know, who had a complete game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing. You look at a Houston Rockets shot chart, and it's all around the basket, and everything's around the three.
Yeah,
It's like crazy.
Yeah, the short range game. Some guys still have that, and it's good to see. I used to, coaching at Blair, I would always tell my kids, man, man, fall in love with the short range game. To me, I have no problem with the 3-pointer, but to me at times it's a cop-out because kids use it because where the defense separates them sometimes, they may not come out that far, so they get an easier look at the basket. So if nobody's gonna come out and check you, I'll take this shot. Well, shoot. Yeah, they're gonna let you shoot it if you're gonna go 1 for 5. Every time you shoot 5 shots, I can defend you that way. I'm gonna let you shoot. Because out of the 5-4 you missed, I'm gonna secure them and go back the other way. So those are second chance points for me versus being a second chance point for the offensive side who's taking the shot. And to me, I see a lot of kids after coaching for so long that it was just an easier way. They didn't have to try to come off the dribble. They didn't have to try to work through picks and get open for a ball. It was just an easier way. I like the 3-point game to some point, but I agree with Brian. I like to be able to move back so far that only a selective few would be able to take that shot. It'll be there, but only a selective few, and everybody else would have to bring it inside.
So Cedric, how do you feel about the bigger guys now not wanting to really play inside? Well, I won't say they won't play inside, but they seem to prefer to be out there by the 3-point line rather than mix it up down low.
Well, that's what's hurt it to the game from the older days to the newer days because you've taken away the pivot area. And so here's what's going to happen. Here's what I feel is going to happen. Everything cycles. Everything cycles. Everything cycles. One day the big man is going to come back around. But here's what's going to happen until somebody is proficient in it. There's going to be one guy to come along And that's what's going to take, where he's not playing outside, but he knows how to dominate inside. Somebody, one's going to have to be able to defend him. You're going to have to know all the defensive strategies on how to defend him. And so coaches will have to go back in trying to work that out. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes. No different when Will Chamberlain came into the game. They had to find a way to defend that big old guy. You know, that's why the rules changed, you know, from the dunking and everything, for no dunking. You know, so
I think the analytics have taken over to such a degree where, you know, the analysis of the mid-range two-point shot not being a beneficial attempt. I mean, it's people buy into it, and I guess it's.
I like percentages.
I guess there's some validity in it.
There is, but
shooting layups and shooting 33% from three.
Right.
Is the same as shooting 50% from two.
And there's some validity to it. But what happens when you get somebody that can put up, or a team that can put up a whole lot of twos versus your threes? What happens then? Hello? I understand the percentage when the percentages works towards the twos because they're so proficient there, and because of where they're shooting from, the percentages are better. We already know that shooting a three, what are the percentages of that going in? And we know what are the percentages of getting a shot in the paint or a layup, what those percentages are. And the reason why the three-point, to me, has been valuable to analytics, that's what coaches have been preaching. They're allowing that to happen. But
well, I think a lot too is, I mean, you take like the Warriors with Curry and Thompson, who are just, it's just a freak show.
Right.
And other teams felt like they could emulate that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like a coach coming down and saying, like, you know, you can be like Stacey Robinson. You can't be like Steph Curry. There's only one.
Right. Well, I agree.
There's only one Klay Thompson.
Right.
So when, say, Alvin Gentry went to New Orleans and he goes, I'm gonna install the Warriors system. Well, you don't have the same players that they have there.
Right.
So I think they went like too far overboard, maybe. I mean, what do I know? But I think the Warriors was a one-off kind of thing. Look what happened to the Rockets.
Yeah.
Missed 28 threes in a row.
Yeah. But
is there a message that you would like to give to the players that represent Montgomery County now, coming from, you know, the Hall of Famers? Is there a message you guys would like to give?
There's a rich history in Montgomery County. I'm actually, in the last year or so, because of John McNamara's book, I've done a lot of research on Montgomery County basketball, and I would implore the today's players in Montgomery County to like, you know, look back and appreciate what kind of a rich basketball tradition there is in this county, and be proud of it, and carry it forward.
I would agree. I would have to say that there's a legacy and that has come before them, and once they can learn about it, and speaking of John McNamara's book, it's called Capital Basketball. Capital Basketball. Yeah. They need to read it. Read it. Take time out to read it. You know, information is power. Just that simple. And that'll empower them to at least understand the legacy the brother. I used to try, when I was coaching at Blair, being a Blair alumni, I was trying to get the kids to understand that, you know, when they step on the court as a Blair Blazer, you know, I would tell them all that went before them. And there's a banner that they got to uphold, you know, for all the players went before them, that they got to sustain that. And it came from players that loved the game, worked hard, and did not compromise. If they can do those things, then, you know, you're in good shape, especially working hard. There are no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts to being good. Everybody give Brian a lot of praises and for shooting, and I give him that, but they don't know how hard he worked behind the scenes to develop that shot so that it became automatic, you know. So that, and I think that's the big key.
I said to him just like 2 years ago, it dawned on me, it was fate. Magid Boatman, Montgomery Blair, MB. There you go.